Hi, guys. Is everyone with me? Can you hear me? Woo! All right. How's everyone doing? Long day? Awesome. Me too. Well, it's going to be a super fun hour. It's not like you're tired of me, are you? Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I have a presentation all ready to go, and if you want to stop and ask me questions, then let me know. Jalen, you can't hear me? Okay. Jalen, you might need to turn on your speaker. Hey Jake, it's probably going to be about an hour. Like I said, just stop me anytime that you need me to answer a question. I don't really want to be talking at you for an hour, so let's go ahead and get started. Please hold. There we go. All right. Yep, it's period 1 and period 2. So, all right, everyone, hit me up with an emoji. How you feeling right now? Good, good, awesome. All right, ready to get started? So most of you I recognize in here. I am Miss Regan, Kate Regan. I am an APUSH teacher in Jacksonville, Florida, Darnell Cookman, what. And we're going to talk about period 1 and 2. It says period 2 review. We're going to get through period 1 pretty quick. Again, stop me if you have any questions, okay? So why don't we start with getting you guys online with Fiveable. So Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, follow at Think Fiveable, so you can get all your updates on all the live feeds and reviews that you need. Okay. So we are going to talk about 1491 to 1607, period 1 review through Jamestown, period 2 review. We're actually going to pick up there at Jamestown and go through European colonization, society, and culture. And I'm going to give you some test tips and maybe, get you guys ready to go for your test. Let me start by asking you, period 1, tell me one thing you know. Conquistadors. Good, good, good. Good, good. You guys are killing it. All right. You must have a great teacher. So we're going to talk about all of that. I should say most of it, actually. Let's start with what are the different types of lifestyle? So we're talking about the natives. What kind of lifestyle, what type of communities did they live in North America before European contact? I see nomadic, yep. Animistic, yep. Chiefdoms, definitely. Nomadic. How about once they settled? Hunter gatherers, absolutely. Agriculture. Hunting and gathering, farmers, right, right, right. So let me pull this up for you here. We've got, yeah, they definitely did. They were definitely trying to go by water sources. Oh, look at that. Great Plains, Great Basin. Good job. So we have really from the Mississippi east, the eastern woodland tribes are going to be up north, the southeastern, and the Great Plains. These guys are going to be mostly agricultural hunter gatherers. So they've got a lot of water sources. You can see with the Great Lakes, obviously the Mississippi, the Atlantic, and then we're going to get into the middle part here, the Great Basin in the Southwest, where it's going to be pretty landlocked. So they are going to be relying. Can you send us the link to the slides? Yeah, listen, I'm going to actually archive this and I will be able to, you'll be able to see this later on. Okay. Great Basin Northwest. What they're going to be doing is a lot of fishing. There are some water sources here. You got the Colorado River, the Rio Grande, and they're going to be doing much more hunting and gathering. The Great Bison in this area. Okay. Yep, you're welcome, Ida. No problem. How are we doing? Any questions? Did I miss anything? Cool. Let's keep going. So the 3 G's in European exploration: gold, God, glory. All three. Who are the three main European powers that are going for the gold, God, glory? Spain, France, Britain. Very good. They are going to compete for world domination, and resources. And they're also mostly not so much the British, but definitely the French and the Spanish are going to be real interested in converting the natives to Christianity, Catholicism. So tell me some of the exchanges that we're talking about with the Columbian Exchange. So you guys brought up Columbian Exchange, which is fantastic. Disease, yes, for sure. So we have stuff coming, smallpox coming from where to where? Horses, iron, guns, smallpox to to North America. Tobacco, good. Sugarcane. You guys are killing it. Syphilis. Okay, let's talk about syphilis for a minute. Both sides did diseases, yes. So the lovely gift that the natives are going to give back to the Europeans in exchange for the smallpox is going to be syphilis. So the natives are going to send that back to Europe, and that's always a real fun topic for my students, talking about all the diseases, the death, and the cannibalism, but we'll talk about that later. Maize, good job, Mario. Diseases, foods, resources. What kind of resources? I don't know if anybody said it. Horses, definitely, and somebody said iron. Yeah, well, they're going to bring guns. The natives aren't going to use those right off the bat, but silver, yeah, they're going to be looking for silver. They're going to be looking for gold. Sheep, sure. Yeah, we're going to bring all of these animals that aren't native to North America from Europe. All right, awesome. Let's keep going. Whoa, where'd that one go? Uh-oh. Horses, rice, smallpox, wheat, and sugar. Awesome. You guys got all those. Okay. So we've got yams, potatoes, wheat, rice, sugarcane. We've got all this agriculture coming into the New World. What is an immediate effect that is going to have on North America? Labor and indentured servants, right? More supply demand. Labor, right? And North America is definitely going to become agricultural. They're going to become a huge exporter. Definitely slaves. Okay, and that's what I'm getting at. The labor and the slaves, and that is going to lead us straight into the encomiendas. Good job, Haley. Good job. Yeah, for sure. An increase in populations, the encomienda. Why isn't this working for me today? Heck, back up. Sorry, guys. Head right system, definitely. Okay, there we go. I guess it's taking a minute for it to load on my end. And there it goes. Okay. So we have the encomienda system. So what the King and Queen of Spain are doing is they're allowing a certain number of natives to belong to any one person. So you are they're sending over missionaries, and they're sending over people to improve on the land in North America. And in order to do that, what are they going to do? They need to have slaves. So they're going to let them take a certain number of natives. What that's going to do is that's going to make them responsible in exchange for being allowed to have these slaves. It's going to make them responsible for their education. In Christianity, I'm not talking yet that they were really teaching them to read and write, but they were teaching them about Christ, and they are having them to help the Spanish create this infrastructure. So it's going to support Spain, and they're going to deliver all of the metals and the corn and everything that they produce over to Spain. And what they're going to do for this is they're going to create the Spanish mission system. Who is familiar with that idea? Yep, definitely. We have one in St. Augustine. There are actually a whole lot on the East Coast, but definitely one in St. Augustine. Okay, well, I'll show you the map here. So here's the idea, right? So you can see these lines here that I put on the map already. These are going to be the routes that the missions take. Puerto Rico, for sure. Mario, awesome. Which is over here. They're going to set up these missions along these routes, and they're going to serve two purposes. They're going to the mission itself is going to be like a home base and a church, and that's right, exactly, Sean, to Christianize the natives, and it is going to serve as an outpost for military. So if they ever need to gather quickly and start to attack or repel an attack, they can all they've got these missions that are scattered throughout pretty strategically. California, yep, absolutely. Through New Mexico, Arizona, California, Texas. If you ever get a chance, I highly recommend seeing one of the ones out west. They're just beautiful, and they're all very uniform. The church said this is how it's going to look, and Spain said, okay, that's how they're going to look. I'm going to give this a second to load. How we doing? While I'm waiting for this. There it goes. Good. Good. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. Oh, I'm glad it's helping. Awesome. All right. So, yep, the Catholics rise up. Oh, those crazy Catholics. Okay. So we've got the Spanish mission system, and that's going to bring us to the triangle trade. The African slaves are going to begin to be brought to the New World. For example, in Barbados, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, for the sugar plantations. Europe, Africa, the New World is going to be your triangle. Hey, Don. Awesome. I hope you are. So when it's going to start in Portugal, well, it is going to start in Portugal, but let's just kind of envision Europe down to Africa, over to the New World, and then back. I think the Middle Passage in triangle trade is probably something you guys remember from, gosh, probably 8th grade. But, you know, it's something you want to make sure you keep in your mind for the exam. Okay, I just did that one. All right, so before I go into the key takeaways of period 1, I want to double check before we dive into period 2, what, if anything, you guys want to know. Is there anything that you missed in class? Anything your teacher didn't cover? Maybe anything you're not feeling too great about? We are going to briefly talk about the Dutch colonies in period 2, Eduardo. That's awesome. The names of the tribes, okay? I would suggest that you know one tribe from each region. They're not going to ask you exactly what you need, or they're not going to exactly ask you, like, you know, name 3 of the ones in the Northwest, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to say, the Inuits, right, in Alaska. You're going to give an example of how the Inuits would have lived. Does that help with the idea about the tribes? All right, Dutch colonies, we talk head-rate system. Hey, Mario, we are going to get to that in period 2, okay? So hold on for me with that. You want to know how to get ready for the period 2 test. All right, I'm with you. I've got you covered on this. You're good. Yes, it's a combination period 1 and 2. And we're finishing up period 1 right now. So we're going to spend the most of our time on period 2. Period 1 is really only, I think, 5% of the exam. So, you know, my students and I, we do 1 and 2, and then we're done and we head into 3. French interaction and Spanish interaction. I would say not really. French and Spanish interaction. There's going to be a lot of French and English and French and Spanish, but not, French and English and Spanish and English, but not so much French and Spanish on the test. Relationships between natives and Europe. Okay, Kara, can you be more specific for me? Sorry, I'm scrolling through this. I will archive it. Specifically found at each colony. No, Haley, you do not need to know who founded each colony. A lot like what I said about the natives, you really want to be able to make an example of somebody. So let's say Lord Baltimore, because Maryland, right? You know, why did he, you know, he's an example of why a colony was founded, right? Okay, awesome. A link to the slides. We got that. You have your period 2 test tomorrow. Good luck, Logan. Jamestown. We will, we're going to touch on Jamestown. I'm trying to get like a whole, really all of periods 1 and 2 in an hour. So if you have a specific question, I would love to answer it for you. I might even suggest to the powers that be, I love Jamestown, to do a Jamestown kind of Roanoke thing, maybe for review at the end. All right, are we good? Cool. Okay. When are they archived? They'll be archived today, tonight. Okay. So your key takeaways are from period one. You want to make sure you know how the natives adapted to their environments once they became settled civilizations, right? So, like we talked about the fishing, and they settled near water, and they were irrigating, and oh, you know what? Even like the Three Sisters that I didn't throw in here because I feel like you guys, I hope, know about that. Give me a thumbs down if I'm wrong about that. Um, I've I really want to suggest that you guys know your North American geography. I don't need you to know the states. I don't want you to know the capitals, but if they ask you about northeastern natives, right? It's super helpful to know that, okay, they're on the Atlantic, there's the Hudson River up there, you've got, the Chesapeake right down there. So they're going to be, and the climate is cool, but then it starts to warm up a little bit. So these are the kinds of things. Thanks, Ton. These are the kinds of things that you guys really, instead of like memorizing, like just know North American geography, right? Like kind of the basic stuff. I know my kids in Florida learn about that in 7th grade. Not that they remember it always, but you might want to just brush up on it. Okay. European contact is going to change the North American continent, and it's going to have a huge cultural, political, and economic impact all over the world. I mean, so imagine they come from this cluster of countries, right? And then they find this giant, untouched land that they are going to take over. Jalen, what are you confused about? While I'm waiting on Jalen to explain, we've got European migration and competition across the continent is going to result in the need for labor. Yep, that's what we're talking about right now, Jalen, is the key takeaways. Yep, I'm just finishing it up right now. Okay, cool. All right. So European migration and competition is going to result in an increased need for labor. Okay, so good with period one? Give me a thumbs up. All right. Yay. Cool. All right, let's move on to period two. Okay, this is a lot of stuff. So, again, stop me if you have any questions. Okay. So, the reasons for migration from Europe, we've got two major reasons that people are going to migrate instead of, and I'm talking after, right at the end of the age of exploration, right? I'm talking about why people are going here kind of to stay, right? Religious freedom. And we've got a huge overcrowding and unemployment problem in Europe. I know you guys remember your world history, so I'm not going to bore you with all of that. So, overcrowding, unemployment, religious freedom, we've got problems. We are going to talk about the types of colonies. We're going to talk about the characteristics of the colonies, colonial life, slavery, government, enlightenment, and great awakening. It's a lot, but it's cool. It's fun. You're going to like it. All right. Overcrowding and unemployment. So we have the rich are going to be taking land from the poor, and they're going to push them off their land. And so now there's not going to be enough room for these people who've been farming for generations. There's not going to be anywhere for them to go. So they're going to see this new opportunity over, maybe to be an indentured servant, or maybe scrounge some money up, or maybe start a joint stock company and go on over to the New World. So there's a word here, primogeniture. And if you are one of my students, I do not want you to answer this question. If you are not one of my students, can you tell me what primogeniture is? Awesome. Yes. Okay. So, okay, Jake. I will get to that, I guess, in a sec. I think you're taking a different APUSH. So the primogeniture is the oldest son inherits the land, inherits everything. So now if you aren't the oldest son, now what are you going to do? Especially with, these rich guys taking over all this land, and now they're leaving it to the oldest son. What's the youngest son going to do? So what they do is they start a thing called joint stock companies, and one of these joint stock companies is going to be the Virginia Company, and they are going to pool their money together, and they are going to come over and found Jamestown. Like I said, we're not going to talk too much about Jamestown because there's so much other stuff we need to get to. But if we have time at the end, I absolutely love talking about that. Okay, so the joint stock companies, again, Virginia Company, go to Jamestown, start a successful colony. It's the second colony that England has tried. So now we've got this successful colony, right? So other reasons that people are coming over: religion. We've got the two main groups are your Pilgrims and your Puritans. They're both separatists from the Church of England. They thought that the church was straying too far away from the true Christianity. And again, I'm not going to get too much into the stuff you learned in World with the Glorious Revolution, but just keep in mind that they're both separatists for at different points for different reasons. The Pilgrims are not interested in reforming the church the way that the Puritans were. They are going to go to Holland, and Holland was a little too crazy for them. They said they're going to head to Jamestown. Unfortunately, little problem gets them off course. I'm sure you guys do know your geography. Virginia to Massachusetts is a pretty far way off. The Puritans, on the other hand, are they hold off a little bit longer. They're hoping the Protestant Reformation is going to bring the church back to, the pureness that it used to be, with the idea of predestination and salvation. And they decided it was taking too long, so they took off and went to Massachusetts, hearing, the success that the Pilgrims were having. Ashley, that's a good question. So the Pilgrims, yes, were a branch of Christianity. They were originally part of the Church of England. Calvinists, yes. Originally part of the Church of England, and it started to stray, right? You remember in World, it wasn't the whole predestination thing wasn't really hanging on like the Calvinists wanted it to. Do you remember that? All right, cool. Okay, so I was going to ask you guys a question and I forgot. Well, let's move on here. Okay. Who's this guy, guys? I know you guys know who this is. You Oh my gosh. Yay. Okay. And you can hear me? Okay, great. I can't wait to see the bookmark they put on that when Kate Regan goes into the snap. Okay, thanks, Todd. All right, so let's go back to Ascends Dimensions application window. Boom. All right, you with me? Whew, okay. That was rough for a second. All right, so this is John Winthrop. He is going to be a very strict Calvinist. He is going to. They are okay. The Calvinists fear. The Puritans fear the idea of democracy. Okay, so, oh no, really? How's that? Okay. Yeah, you might need to refresh, Mario. That has happened to me before. So they are. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back on track here. Um. Okay, John Winthrop. He is going to lead the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He is strict Calvinist, and what they in the Massachusetts Bay Colony have is almost a theocracy. They don't like democracy. Pilgrims obviously penned the Mayflower Compact, so we know. Good job, Santiago. Yes, that is John Winthrop. He's going to we'll talk about the Mayflower Compact in a second. I'm sorry, I got all out of whack here. Okay. Sorry, Lewis. Okay, let's talk about City Upon a Hill. Okay, so read this quote and talk to me about what John Winthrop was saying to his people. For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his presence from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. Yes, he wanted them to be an example to others. There's also kind of another little snobby part to this, I think. Yes, Jason, absolutely. He not only did he want people to look up at them, that they are the role models, that they are the everything kind of Christians. They were also better than everybody else. So you get to look down on everybody else because you're that holy. You're so holy. Good job, guys. Yeah, he's gonna flex. That's great, Amanda. You're funny. Okay, I am going to kind of speed this up just a touch because I had that technical difficulty. Roger Williams and Ann Hutchinson are two people that you are definitely going to want to remember. Again, it's just going to be an example that you can use. Don't get caught up in all the minutia, by the way, all the little teeny tiny bits and pieces of information. If you can remember one person who is an example of this, or one event that was an example of that, that's all they're going to look for on the exam. Okay. They're not looking for you to memorize every general of World War II. Again, like that, Roger Williams and Hutchinson are each going to be a really good example of, the idea of predestination being a bad idea to people who are democratically minded. So Roger Williams is going to say that the church and the state should be separate. They're going to ban him for being so, nice. And Hutchinson is going to challenge all of the, oh no, thank you, Janicia. I can't say that word. Is going to challenge the idea of predestination. And they are going to put her on trial. And basically, her answer is going to be, well, if we're all predetermined to do, to go wherever we're going to go, then, why do we follow any laws? Okay, Megan, the Puritan idea of predestination, that's a really good question, is the idea that it doesn't matter what you do or who you are. The minute you're born, God has decided if you're going to heaven, where you're going to spend the afterlife. There's nothing you can do to change his decision. If you are one of the visible saints, as they call them, then you are going to heaven, and there's nothing you can do that's going to change that. The same side, if you aren't one of the visible saints, then you can't do anything good enough to change God's mind to get into heaven. So the idea that Anne Hutchinson brings up is like, hey, if there's no choice, or there's no way for us to change God's mind, then, oh no, am I frozen again? There we go. Then why do we have to follow rules? And they, had no good answer for her, so they banned her. Is that good? Are you good? Everybody good on predestination? Woohoo! Okay. High five, y'all. Did she try to be a minister? I think she did. After her family was murdered, I think, that was kind of sidetracked her. But she was one of those women who wasn't really down with the idea that the men were totally in control, right? So women should have a say. Okay, let's look at our colonies. Northern colonies. Again, you don't have to memorize all of them, but I beg you to know your North American geography. Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. These guys are going to settle these areas mostly because of religion. They are going to do trading with the natives. They're going to trade within each other's colonies. So Massachusetts with New Hampshire and so on. They are going to cut down a lot of trees, do a lot of shipbuilding. There's not going to be a whole lot of farming. Any kind of farming that they're going to do is really going to be subsistence farming. Why do you think that is? Land sucks. In a couple words, yeah, that's true. Poor soil. Why else? Cold winters, definitely. They're going to call it Maryland and Virginia. Probably, yeah. They know that's coming, so they might as well just stick to fishing. Yeah, the soil's terrible. It's rocky. There's just not a whole lot of areas that are arable. Right? Good job, guys. Okay. How about our middle colonies? Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Grace. There just wasn't any need for them, right? Because they didn't have, you and your family are practicing subsistence farming. You're going to buy a slave to do something your son could do. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so let's look at the middle colonies. We've got Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, and New Jersey. The soil is going to be good for farming, much better than in New England. You can see there's like a whole lot of water throughout these areas. So it's going to be real arable, good quality soil. They are going to provide, these colonies in the middle colonies are going to provide a lot of the grains, the wheat, etc., for the rest of the colonies. This is going to be the most racially diverse region of the colonies. So you see I put Dutch, the Swedish, English, Spanish, Irish. Why do you think it's going to be so ethnically diverse? Or racially. Yeah, I'm not sure what word fits best there. Hmm. All of you are right. Okay, so excellent job. So you've got the Dutch are going to settle in New York. The Pennsylvanians are going to be super, welcoming to everyone. Even so far down like as Maryland, I hesitate to call that middle, but you've got the Catholics there who do the acts of toleration. Absolutely, the Quakers are going to be accepting of everyone. You just have a lot of. There's not a real hierarchy. There's not a whole lot of unacceptance in this area. So it's mostly going to be the religious tolerance that's going to attract everybody. Good, good, good. You guys are killing it. You need help with Quakers. The Quakers lived in Pennsylvania. What do you need help with, Lewis? Yep, good job, Gregory. Yeah. Okay. So the Quakers were the ones who were the most accepting and the most kind, especially to the natives. The Quakers are just, yes, very peaceful, Haley. They had this sort of, they called them the Quakers because when the spirit entered them, they would quake. Okay. They are really, were they disliked in other colonies? I'm not sure if they were disliked as much as because they weren't real mobile. They're gonna pretty much stay where they're at, so it would be pretty easy to avoid them. Okay, southern colonies. Nobody actually paid them, Reagan. What they did, that's one of the reasons that Roger Williams left is he thought that they should pay them. Well, the natives actually never took money, right? Because no one can own land. So the Quakers believed that they should pay them for the land. But they just didn't actively push them off like everyone else. Yeah, they got finesse, Jason. You got it. Okay. Southern colonies: Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Great soil, great climate, more religiously tolerant than the other regions. Mostly because, well, I'm going to ask you, why do you think this is going to be more religiously tolerant than, let's say, Massachusetts? Take a drink of water. Okay, you got the Catholics in Maryland. Yeah. What else? Think about maybe the geography. Oglethorpe. Yes, he was in Georgia. Yep. Georgia is going to be founded by convicts. Absolutely. My favorite story of Georgia. Yes, the head right system is going to bring all sorts of people. It is diverse. Isolations, right. They are so spread apart. It's going to be really hard to disagree with your neighbor when they're 4 miles away, right? You don't really have to interact with anyone. And like somebody said, they are bringing the convicts in. Logan said that they are bringing convicts in, debtors, and people who had broken the law. Hey, you want to go to the New World? Absolutely. Okay, well, we'll let you out of jail, but you're going to need to live in Georgia. Well, that sounds like a lovely place. Thanks. Well, right, but you're going to make sure the rest of us know if the natives or the Spanish are going to come attack. So, make your choice. So it's going to be really hard to be intolerant of, other criminals. Okay. Proprietary colonies, charter colonies, royal colonies. You're going to have, Genesia, buffer state, awesome. Um, these are your three types of colonies. I'm not going to say that you need to memorize this per se, but you know, if you see the word, you're going to need to be able to kind of differentiate. I don't think I've ever seen it, but it's okay. You should know it. So the proprietary colonies are land grants that are given to small groups of people or even individuals from the crown. The charter colonies are given to companies so that they can earn money and improve on the land. So it's not just like, oh, here, you know, uh, I don't know, the baron of wherever, here's some free land and he just gets to go live there. The charter colonies are going to be given to a company. And what they're going to do is improve upon the land and help foster the whole mercantilism thing, which we will talk about. So don't panic. And then we have the royal colonies. And the monarch doesn't have complete control and total say over what happens there. There's in the beginning, little to no democracy. Governors are appointed, and they're basically the voice of the king. British colonies. Oh, right. Sorry. So let's talk about what life is like in these colonies. Are you with me? Am I screaming? Any questions? Thanks, Haley. Okay, so New England colonies. Right? Wake up, everybody. Thanks, Todd. New England colonies, mostly families, large family units. And what's going to be unique with New England is you're gonna know your grandparents. Unlike a lot of the other the colonies farther south, you were probably lucky to know who your dad was, because of death, not because of anything else. It's a healthier environment because it's cooler. It's healthier than England and it's healthier than the other colonies. It's going to um, discourage disease spreading um, because of their climate. And yeah, they brought their families over. So imagine this, right? You are um, you're a farmer who's out of work. All right, y'all stay here. I'm going to go over to Virginia and I'm going to farm some tobacco for a while and I'll send money home. Those are the people leaving for economic reasons, right? They're less likely to bring their families. If you're leaving for religious reasons, imagine your dad saying, hey, we're being religiously persecuted. Now I'm going to go check this stuff out. And you guys stay here. You're going to come back. Your family's dead. So the New England colonies, because they were fleeing religious persecution, are going to be, yes, thank you. I sure will, Paula. There's going to be a lot more families than there are in, there are going to be a lot more families in New England than there will be down south. Okay, so link to the slides, headright system. I think we got to that. How significant are the nomadic tribes? With APUSH, they're not really going to. The questions are going to start with once they're settled. So the nomadic tribes, they're really not going to ask on that. List of important figures to remember in periods 1 and 2. Yep, if you'll give me until the end, I will happily do that. Let's see. Who specifically? Oh, yep, we answered that. Sorry. What caused them to merge? That's a really good question. Sorry, going back up to period 1. The Pilgrims and Puritans decided to merge mostly because of security, right? So they banded together in order to protect themselves from the natives, really. Names of tribes. Do you have to know about French interaction? Oh, we talked about that. Sorry. Okay, I will get back to that in just a second. Let's look at the... Okay. Oh, how did that... New England colonies. Oh, I'm sorry. I put this in the middle of our colonies review. Okay, so this is actually a really good table. Just like a super quick kind of reference, right? So in New England, you're going to have mostly families and big population booms because people are living longer up in the New England colonies. So, bigger population. The cooler climate, cleaner water. Towns over 50 have to have towns over 50 families have to have schools. The society is going to be male and church dominated, and there is little hierarchy outside of the church. So if you were to go to your neighbor's house who has more pigs than you have, they're not better than you. Everyone is very much the same up in New England. Oop. Oh, thanks, Jake. Middle colonies is going to be mostly men. Good job, Mario. It's going to be a slow growing population, mostly because everyone's dying real young. You've got swampy areas. You've got dysentery and malaria and all that fun stuff. And a lot of brackish water. For my apes kids know what brackish water is. The warm, clammy kind of humid climate is really going to promote disease. The education is not going to be as strongly emphasized in New England. And why do you think that is? Oh, we're getting close to the end. I'll tell you what. Let me flip through these because we got like 8 minutes. Let me flip through these and see what you guys are like. Whoa, what is that? Okay, does that sound good? Give me a thumbs up. Cool. Oh, you guys are the greatest. Okay. Bacon's Rebellion. How are we on Bacon's Rebellion? Eric says no. Good on Bacon's Rebellion? Discuss, please. You got it. Okay, so Bacon's Rebellion. We have the head right system is where we have people coming over to for sure, Veronica. People are coming over to the New World, and because they're being pushed off their land by the wealthy landowners, right? They decided that they could, in order to get passage over, you would be given land in exchange for your passage, right? Are you with me on this? I feel like I'm stuttering a little bit. Basically, you get to come to the New World. They pay for it. You get to do indentured servitude, and then you get some stuff at the end. Good? Who gave the land? What do you mean? I'm going to hold this over here for a minute. Okay. Who gave the land? Let's see. Who gave it to the indentured servants? Okay, so let's say it's you've got this plot of land given to you by the king, right? The colonists say too much. So they've got all this land, and the king is going to give them the land. And once they bring their indentured servant over, they say, look, I got all this land. When you're done, you can have this little piece of it over here. And that's not exactly how it ended up working out. 1676, you've got 1,000 former laborers are going to revolt against Governor Berkeley, who was treating the natives better than he was treating these former indentured servants when they weren't getting the stuff that they were supposed to get. He was giving stuff away to the natives, kind of trying to keep peace, but they weren't seeing it like that. They attacked the former farmers or current farmers are going to attack the natives. They're going to burn down Berkeley's mansion. Sorry for the typo there. And they're going to drive him out of Virginia. In fact, they're going to drive him off of the continent. He's going to head on back to England. And unfortunately, even though he was gone, Nathaniel Bacon's going to die. They have no leadership, and they're going to lose their battle there. It's a real fun little farmers' rebellion. Okay, African slaves. So after Bacon's rebellion, these landowners are going to say, you know what? These indentured servants are too much trouble, and we need to do something. We need to figure out how we're going to get this labor force. Now, the indentured servants were cheaper than African slaves in the beginning. And then they started making all this money, and they can afford the African slaves. So they're like, hey, let's do what Portugal did and what the Dutch did, and let's go ahead and start importing these slaves. They were down in Barbados, is going to be where the Portuguese first brought their slaves. The British are going to import what's called the Barbados slave codes. And that's where they're going to really get their foundation for how to maintain a group of slaves. Right? You with me? We do have one. There's more than one, but there's one slave revolt specifically in South Carolina called the Stono Rebellion. The slaves are going to revolt. They're going to try to flee to Spanish Florida. They are captured by British residents, so the Georgians, right? Because they went down through Georgia, and they're returned to slavery. What did the other European powers? Why? Well, so that's a good question, Ashton. So you've got the Portuguese going and kidnapping and bartering for the slaves, right? With the Africans. It doesn't cost them as much. So what the Dutch are trying to do is to profit off of it. So they aren't really in a position yet to purchase them until they start gaining all this wealth. Because remember, when they first went to North America, they're looking for gold, no gold. The Spanish had gold. The French had found gold. The Portuguese had found gold. Sorry, Britain, you're out of luck. So they really weren't in a financial position to do that until later on when they had all these resources that they were able to exploit. Good, cool. All right. Let me flip through. I think I've got, okay, we really have to talk about the Enlightenment. I've got 2 minutes. The Enlightenment is what is going to cause the Great Awakening. You've got all these religious people getting all of these crazy ideas about, individuality and science and things. So we've got the Great Awakening is going to be these religious revivals trying to bring people back to the church and away from all that crazy thinking and science and individualism. We've got 2 main players here. We've got George Whitefield is the old lights. He is going to preach like the whole predestination thing. Keep everything the way it is, even make it even tighter, right? And then you've got Jonathan Edwards, and he's going to go, okay, you know what? The Enlightenment's fine. Everything's cool. Science, God, all of it can exist. Let's go preach about that. One of the big major effects of the Great Awakening is going to be this emergence of an American identity. Okay, and we'll get to that at the end. I know I've got like 1 minute. Salutary neglect. Let's see. Colony. Okay. What I'm going to do Sorry, guys, I didn't time this very well. You had such good questions. Whoop, that says period 2. Oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, I'd love to. Thanks, Ton. We can do better next time. You better believe it. You want me to go? Okay, Reagan, I'll go longer than an hour. I know. All right. And I just love talking about this stuff too. I'm so sorry. Woohoo! Good job, Lauren. All right. Salutary neglect. Do I even need to ask what if you know? I know my kids know. If you aren't one of my kids, do you know what salutary neglect is? Never talked about it. That's all right. So a lot of teachers might actually leave this until period 3, and that's fine. I bring it up because it's I just kind of sets the stage, and I kind of like it. So salutary neglect is where the British kind of stopped paying attention to what was going on over in the colonies, right? I mean, you're looking at 1607 until about 1763. Yeah, whatever. They're over there. They're sending us all of their stuff. We've got this mercantilism thing going, which is great. Yes, to buy a good job. They're going to give us the raw materials, and guess what? They're going to have to buy them back. So we've got this like captive audience, and we've got all these resources, and we're just going to, eat it all up. So they're part of us. We're part of us. We're just going to take our stuff and sell them our stuff. It's fantastic. They were restricting in the 1600s, restricting the colonists from trading with anybody but England. So that's the navigation laws. The salutary neglect is going to start to be a time where they start getting real lax on those. So the smuggling, man, who cares? The trading to France, who cares? They've got they're all the way up here at this point, right? So Britain's the number one power. We're not too worried about it. We have the House of Burgesses is going to come in Virginia. So this is going to kind of help explain the salutary neglect, right? Because they're starting to be comfortable governing themselves. England's leaving them alone. They're doing whatever they want, pretty much. It's going to be really democratic over in the New World until 1763. And you're going to have to wait for that because I'm not going to spoil that. So up until 1763, they're very democratic, salutary neglect, and then that's it. We're done. Okay. Your key takeaways from, I know it says period 1. I'm really sorry. Period 2 review. The differences of the colonies, the spread of information, which is going to lead to the American identity coming together, slavery, the idea of democracy, the Great Awakening, and the Enlightenment. I do want to tell you frequently asked questions that I've seen on the test. Maybe, I know a teacher who has a test. Comparing French, British, and Spanish colonization is always, 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 always on the AP exam, always. Yes, right, Jake, absolutely. First and second Great Awakening, for sure. Can you go back to the last slide, please? Okay. You talked me into it. 5 seconds. 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Comparing the different colonies and the idea of African slavery. I can't stress this enough. You're welcome, Tobias. I want you to read the question before you read the excerpt. It's a good chance you're going to know the answer without reading the excerpt. A lot of you think that you need the excerpt with the multiple choice to be able to answer the question, and that's not always the case. It's going to save you some time. And don't rush. Do not rush through your test. Read it. Pace yourself. Okay? All right. So I will answer some questions in a moment. Don't forget to follow at Think Fiveable on Twitter. I always forget these little symbols. Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you are always welcome to follow me. I don't have a YouTube, on Twitter and Instagram at WWMRD20. What would Miss Regan do? Okay, let me go to my question queue here. Oh boy, why did the other European... Oh, we answered that one. Sorry, we answered that one. How in-depth does our knowledge need to be about the Native American, European, specific name cultures? Did I answer that, Paula? Let me get to that. Let me answer that. You need to have an example of one or two people, places, things for each topic, right? So when we're talking about areas of settlement, you want to know that the Iroquois were in the Northeast. So you don't know, there's hundreds of them, right? You don't need to know all of them. You want them to be your example for that region. Same with Virginia for the South. Same with Massachusetts for the North. Does that help? I hope. Did I lose Paula? Okay. What were the Congregational and Presbyterian churches? Amy. I am going to have to get back to you on that. I am going to write that down, and I am going to get back to you on that. They are going to be Protestant churches that broke off from the... Oh, great, Paula. Awesome. That broke off from the Church of England. Halfway covenant. Absolutely. Let me write down Presbyterian. Okay, halfway covenant. Here's the idea with the halfway covenant is that if your parents or even maybe your grandparents were visible saints, remember the Lord spoke to them, or God spoke to them and said, you know, you're predestined, but you weren't. It was a way to keep church membership going by having you be baptized and brought into the church, and therefore, oh, you know, now you're a visible saint. So it was a way really to keep the church memberships going. Does that help, Xavier? How did the European powers interact with each other while colonization was happening? Let's see. Let me give you one example. Okay. We're not going to have a whole lot of interaction really until period 3. But what we do have in period 2 is kind of this idea. Everyone's kind of staying away from one another. You do have, when was it? I want to say late 1500s. You've got Spain and England at war with each other. And then after that, they kind of like, you know, stay away from each other and do their claims. It's when they start getting so spread out is really when they're going to have to really start interacting. And that's when we're going to have a lot of conflict. Okay. Did I answer everybody's questions? Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ton. The list of key people. Mario. Which people? Hey, thanks, Todd. All right, I got to run, y'all. Have a good night. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for all your awesome questions, your participation. You guys did great. Now, if I could figure out how to turn this off, that'd be awesome. Okay, bye.